She has asked, probably everybody's here has heard what she said this last week, and our fine friends out in pro-life TV land have heard this, that she's at the fine Catholic she is, don't forget. The cardinals, she's asked the cardinals and archbishops and the bishops to speak from the pulpit about immigration laws and how people who oppose immigration reform are sitting in those pews, and you have to tell them that this is a manifestation of living out the Gospels. I didn't know she knew what the Gospels were, but here's the one. She says, I hope that there's one thing. Keep in mind who's saying this now. Right. Miss Pro-Abortion, how many babies can we kill, foaming at the mouth, pro-abortion. I would hope that there's one thing that we can do working together as we go forward that speaks to what the Bible tells us about the dignity and worth of every person. Long as they're not in the womb, mind you. So anyway, it makes me sick to my stomach.
It really does. But you know what? I've said it before. We've talked about it here many times. We're in a stage in our history, I call the winnowing out stage, where people are being exposed for what they are. Mm-hmm. And this woman is being exposed. She's a counterfeit Catholic. She's a counterfeit Christian. And there's more and more and more of this sort of thing happening. But I mean, do you have any idea what kind of flack this woman would raise if someone said to her, well, we've got to defend the unborn because that's how you live out the gospel, and the Bible tells us this and the Bible tells us that? She'd be the very first one, and she said it before. You know, she said before, I cannot go into the halls of Congress and enforce my personal religious views on the country. I'm a congressperson. I'm not there to be their conscience, or, you know, she said those sort of things in the past, as have all of these degenerates just like her. And yet now when they find it convenient because they think, well, we can get all these Catholic bishops now to speak out on immigration, now all of a sudden they're quoting Bible verses and talking about how the priests need to speak about this from the pulpit.
I'd like to think that no priest or bishop or anybody would even go speak to her unless it's to excommunicate her out of the church.
And until church leaders get the guts enough to say, this woman is not a Catholic,
right,
we're going to have that problem. Somebody's got to be bold enough to say, this is a hypocrite. Right. This person does not represent us.
She's worse than a hypocrite. She's a heretic.
You know, when I was a little boy, I used to study the Bible, and I used to read about the Pharisees and the scribes and all. Going, oh, my goodness, were there people like that? I'm going, where are there people like that now? I'm going, there are still people like that.
And there always will be. Yeah.
I heard a pagan guy on the radio the other day. I can't even remember who it was, but it got my attention that even he noticed, and he said, churches don't stand for anything anymore. They don't stand for anything.
Oh, sure.
And this guy said it, and I was going, wow, he notices that it's a bunch of mishmash wish-wash.
Well, you know, there's so many inconsistencies of what Nancy Pelosi says every single day. In fact, she'll contradict herself in the same sentence. Right. One of the things that struck me was she said, you know, the people who are sitting in the pulpits are against immigration reform. Well, I sit in the pulpits, and I'm not against immigration reform. We have a serious immigration problem, and I'm not opposed to immigration whatsoever, just that people need to cross the border legally.
Yes.
The people that come here from Ireland have to have a rigorous exam and acceptance policy, why the people from South America can just come across the border. But here's my point. The reason we have a, quote, immigration problem is because of the policies of Nancy Pelosi in the last 40 years. It's not that we have jobs that no Americans will do. It's the fact that we have jobs with no one to fill them.
Because we've killed them.
Because we've killed 50 million children. There are real jobs in America, and I believe, and maybe I'm swimming upstream, I usually do, but maybe the reason we're exporting so many jobs across the country, or to other countries like China and Mexico and Canada and Ireland and Europe, is because we don't have the workforce that we ought to have, because we've taken the lives of these babies.
You're exactly right. I wrote an article about this. It's on our blog several months ago. And if you look at a movie like Demographic Winter, and you see what, and we're not talking about people's opinions here. We're just talking about the math. Just sit down and do the math. You can't kill 50 million, take 50 million people out of your workforce and think that that doesn't have an impact, an economic impact.
You know, the frightening thing...
You not only lost those 50 million, you've lost the descendants of those 50 million.
That's right.
The frightening thing about demographic winter, I remember watching this in a hotel room. This was several years ago when it first came out. I saw it, and it predicted that at a certain point, right around 2008, 2009, the economy would collapse because you had more baby boomers retiring than you had people replacing them. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And what happened? Yeah, I mean, that sends chills up your spine. These guys are right.
Right, exactly. By the way, we saw Guttmacher released a study, and I noticed it was interesting that they didn't release the study, and you know they had it, before the health care debate. They released it afterward. Because you remember when they were talking about...
Deficit neutral stuff?
No. Well, that's another study. But they were talking about how you can't disadvantage women by not putting payment for abortion in national health care because so many women rely on their existing insurance policies to pay for health care. Right. And if those are taken away and national health care comes in and doesn't pay for it, then those women won't be able to have abortions. Guttmacher released a study right after the national health care was passed that shows that less than 12% of all women in America who have abortions are the abortions paid for by insurance companies. Right. 57% women paid for their own abortions, and 13% received help from some nonprofit group, and 20% got their abortions covered under Medicaid, as some states allow tax dollars to pay for abortions. Yes. Not most of them, but some. So, in other words, they lied. They lied again, which is, again, not...
They lied to get Roe versus Wade to begin with, and they've been lying ever since.
Right. One final thing here, Troy. We got to bring this up. We're just about out of time, but this is happening, something you know about. You've written about it quite a bit here recently. This deal where they're going to let doctors talk to girls in places where there's no abortion mill.
Right.
The girl goes into a Planned Parenthood facility that doesn't do abortions. She sits in front of I don't know if you've heard this, but this is amazing. She sits in front of a camera. That transmits a signal to a doctor hundreds of miles away, and he interviews her like he's examining her, right? And she's seeking an abortion. If he's convinced that everything is okay, he pushes a button 100 miles away, and right in front of her, a little door opens up, and RU46 abortion pills are there for her to take.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're calling it telemed or telephone medicine.
Yeah.
Literally, there is no doctor-patient relationship, which is, of course, remember, abortion decisions should be between her doctor and her God. Well, forget God, and now forget the doctor-patient relationship. Right. It's clearly illegal, and this is happening in Iowa, because Iowa statute says that a doctor must be present during the abortion.
And what does present mean?
Present means present during the abortion. On top of that, it's off-label use from the FDA. When the FDA approved this, and we know it was politicized, they said that a doctor must be present, must be part of this procedure. And so here we have Iowa, Planned Parenthood of Iowa, completely running afoul of the law, afoul of the prescribed required administration of the drug. And because we know that we've had over 13 maternal deaths associated with our RU46, and over 1,000, I think 1,200 serious complications associated with this. This is putting women's lives at danger, and of course it's going to be killing even more babies. But I think even additional to that, you've got a situation here where you've got a lack of abortionists. Literally, there's a dearth of the number of people that are willing to do abortions. So you can have, in theory, some quack abortionist sitting in his living room in his pajamas pushing buttons all day long to kill babies.
And just think about it. You're just a woman. You're sitting there. Here's a little a little television camera, and there's a little box in front of you with a door on it, and you answer the questions like the guy on the other end wants you to answer them, and all of a sudden the little door goes plop, and you take out your abortion.
It's a sci-fi movie.
Do you think there's a little answer like answer yes now?
Right.
Answer. This is.
Wow.
It is like I thought of Logan's Run when I first saw this.
I said Logan's Run in my head.
The little pill pops up and you go to Sleepyland or whatever it is.
Except in this case, the pill pops up and your baby goes to Sleepyland. Right. I am absolutely convinced. And I saw this years ago when we got the stuff on the home abortion kit, which we still have the video. I don't know if I've ever shown any of you guys
There's
that video.
A video.
Oh yeah, we've got a video here of it. It's like a Tupperware party where women sit around and give themselves abortions. It's
Menstrual extraction.
menstrual extractions, they call it. And we've got the video for it. And I thought at the time, this proves to me there is nothing these people won't do. Yeah. There is nothing, there's no limit, no barrier, nothing you can place in front of these people. When it comes to killing a baby, they'll do whatever it takes.
If you're butchering in pieces, innocent children, why stop there?
And this is just a manifestation of that deal. This little door is going to plop. It would be funny if it weren't so incredibly tragic. Anyway, we'll be right back. It seems that almost every conservative commentator, political pundit, and Republican Party guru is convinced that this November is going to be a bloodbath for the Democrats. To hear them tell the story, the elections are little more than a formality. But I'm not so sure we should be counting those chickens just yet. Let me remind you that many of the experts who are now saying that the health care fiasco has doomed those who supported it are the same experts who proclaim that the election of Scott Brown in Massachusetts ended any chance of health care passing in the first place. Of course, as we all now know, that little pearl of wisdom put the Republicans to sleep and shifted the Democrats into high gear. The result was that a few weeks later, Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid could be seen leering over Obama's shoulder as he signed national health care into law. Now, those same experts seem oblivious to the fact that today's voters have short attention spans. It may be true that if the elections had been held the day after national health care passed, the American people would have voted these crooks out of office. In fact, it's entirely possible they would have been perfectly fine with throwing every political hack who jammed this down their throats in jail. But already, that anger and passion seems to have largely evaporated, and come November, it may be little more than a hazy memory. What we need to remember is that in almost every aspect of human experience, complacency is the most reliable predictor of failure. As pro-lifers, we should also remember that no one has more to lose through socialized medicine than the unborn. So what I'm asking you to think about is the old saying that tells us to pray like everything depends on God and work like everything depends